Welcome to The Man in the Middle. I'm your host, Bill West. Today we are covering, as you know, Ozzy Osbourne has passed away. He was 76. It was just 2 weeks after the last Black Sabbath concert. I'm not a great Ozzy Osbourne fan. I own several of his discs uh, throughout the years. I've followed him through Black Sabbath and on his own, and when he returned to Black Sabbath for 13, and then I have his last album. Well, before I muddle on, let's read the article. This is by in Variety by Chris Norris. Ozzy Osbourne, Black Sabbath frontman and heavy metal legend, dies at 76. Ozzy Osbourne, a founding author of British heavy metal, a latter-day solo star and new millennium reality TV luminary, died Tuesday after a year-long struggle with Parkinson's disease. He was 76. Osbourne's death was confirmed by the BBC. He had performed just 2 weeks ago at what was billed as Black Sabbath's last concert, a festival titled Back to the Beginning in his and the band's hometown of Birmingham, England. That amounted to a massive tribute to the legendary band, including from such legendary spiritual offering as Metallica, Guns N' Roses, Slayer, Tool, Pantera, Alice in Chains, and more. A statement from his family reads, "It is with more sadness than words can convey that we have to report that our beloved Ozzy Osbourne has passed away this morning. He was with his family and surrounded by love. We ask everyone to respect our family privacy at this time." In January 2020, following 2 years of escalating health problems, Osbourne announced that he had been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. In February 2023, he issued a statement saying that he was retiring from touring, citing spinal injuries he has sustained in a 2018 accident. He said, "In all good conscience, I have now come to the realization that I am not physically capable of doing my upcoming European UK tour dates, as I know I couldn't deal with the travel required. Believe me when I say that the thought of disapproving my fan really messes me up, more than you will ever know. Never would I imagine my touring days would have ended this way." From 1969 to 1979, Osbourne was a headbanging frontman for Birmingham, England-based Black Sabbath, which codified the bottom-heavy, churning sound and lyrical demonology that would course through dozens of metal bands to come. Though the group's history was a chaotic one characterized by monumental substance abuse and tumultuous infighting, its early albums survive as classics of the genre. On the occasion of Black Sabbath's 2006 induction into Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, critic Deborah Frost wrote, "Black Sabbath simply oozed upon us, unfestooned by any pretense of art, peace, love, understanding, or mushroom embroidery, and immediately defined heavy metal." Fired from Sabbath in 1979, Osbourne launched a solo career of his own that, in commercial terms, surpassed the success of his former band. His groups launched Zakk Wylde and the late Randy Rhoads as metal guitar gods. His popularity among metal fans was so immense that his wife, manager Sharon Osbourne, built a touring festival, Ozfest, around him, and became one of the biggest box office attractions of the 90s, and attracted a glittering lineup of support acts, helping to launch the careers of many. Osbourne garnered additional fame early in the new millennium and added to the paterfamilias of the Osbourne MTV reality series that focused its lens on the rock star's home life. New York Times TV critic Karen James wrote of the show's second season, Bow, in 2002, "The Osbournes remained a wacky, harmlessly outrageous variation on every family, as full of warmth as they are of weirdness. Ozzy, the trembling, goth-looking dad, Sharon, the expletive-spouting mom, daughter Kelly, the pudgy would-be singer, and son Jack, the unformed, belligerent adolescent. Plagued by lifelong battles with drug addiction and alcohol, Sometimes blatantly out of it on stage, the unpredictable Osbourne was a magnet for trouble and a lightning rod for controversy. His late tenure with Black Sabbath was marked by a concert no-show that turned into a riot. Most infamously, he stunned CBS record execs at a 1981 meeting held at a company in LA's headquarters to promote his debut solo album, drunkenly biting off the head of a live dove. A similar episode involving a live bat transpired in a 1982 show in Des Moines, Iowa, necessitating a rabies shot. Seemingly intent on living his musical fantasies of violence and horror off stage, he had an especially tumultuous relationship with his second wife, Sharon. They became a tabloid staple for their oft-violent domestic quarrels. After one altercation in 1989, Osbourne was arrested for attempted murder, but the couple would always reconcile. He was born James Michael Osbourne in Birmingham on December 3rd, 1948. One of 6 children in a working-class family, he performed in secondary school operettas and was later an early fan of the Beatles. After dropping out of school at 15, he was manual laborer and turned briefly to petty crime, drawing a 6-week jail sentence for burglary. At the age of 19, he partnered with bassist Terence Geezer Butler as a vocalist in an unsuccessful local band. They were soon joined by 2 former members of Mythology, guitarist Tony Iommi and drummer Bill Ward. Originally known as Earth, the quartet was formed to change its handle when they learned of a like-named group. The musicians selected Black Sabbath after director Mario Bava's 1963 horror anthology. Signed to Philips Records in the UK and subsequently to Warner Brothers Records in the US, Black Sabbath issued its debut album in 1970, fittingly on Friday the 13th. Though the murky, morbid LP was widely reviled by the press, it became a top 10 hit in Britain and climbed to number 23 in the US. A swiftly recorded and released follow-up, Paranoid, put the band firmly on the map on both sides of the Atlantic, topping the English charts at reaching number 12 and reaching number 12 stateside. It contained several heavy riffing numbers with lyrics penned by Butler and yelled convincingly by Osbourne, which defined the metal sound War Pigs, Paranoid, Hand of Doom, and what ultimately became the group's best-known signature, Iron Man. The original lineup issued its highest charting release, Master Reality, in 1971. The set, which climbed to number 8 in America, included Sweet Leaf, a crowd-pleasing ode to pot smoking. The band diversified its sound on Volume 4, number 13, 1972, which featured a surprising Osbourne ballad, Vocal Changes, and the widely admired Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, number 11, 1973. Distinguished by a more thrashing attack and a couple of purely instrumental tracks. By the mid-1970s, Osbourne and his band members were at loose ends. The singer's heavy consumption of drugs and alcohol had led to the collapse of his first marriage, during which he fathered daughter Jessica and son Louis, and other Sabbath members were all indulging their vices heavily. The group's problem led to a marked drop-off in musical quality and record sales. Sabotage, 1975, peaked at number 28 in the U.S., while its successor, Technical Ecstasy, 1976, recorded amid distractions in Miami, managed a weak 51. In the wake of making the troublesome latter album, Osbourne bolted the group in 1977 and embarked on a solo project, Blizzard of Oz, and replaced by singer Dave Walker of Savoy Brown. However, he swiftly changed his mind and returned to the Sabbath fold for a dismal collection ironically titled Never Say Die. Released amid the game-changing punk revolt of 1978, the decidedly old-fangled album had topped out at number 69. It was followed by a disastrous Sabbath tour of Europe and the U.S., opened by the young Pasadena band Van Halen. A melee erupted at Nashville Municipal Auditorium after Osbourne overslept and failed to make the show. Enraged by Osbourne's disinterest and lack of discipline, the other members of Black Sabbath fired him in early 1979, replacing him with Ronnie James Dio. The recruitment of Dio was suggested by Sharon Arden, the fiery daughter of Sabbath's even more fiery manager, Don Arden. She had met Osbourne as a teenager, and not long after the singer's dismissal from the band, the two began dating. She was instrumental in assembling Osbourne's solo band and soon took over as his personal manager. She would marry the musician in 1982. His Epic record Solo Bow, Blizzard of Oz, 1980, restored Osbourne's commercial fortunes and introduced the dynamic lead guitarist Randy Rhoads. The album peaked at number 21 domestically and ultimately went quadruple platinum and contained one of the Osbourne's later day signatures, Crazy Train. Another of the album's tracks, Suicide Solution, prompted a lawsuit by the parents of an American teen who said the song prompted their son to kill themselves in 1984. The case, which preceded a similar accusation later leveled against UK metal band Judas Priest, was ultimately dismissed. The sophomore solo release, Diary of a Madman, 1981, bested its predecessor on the charts, rising to number 16 and shifted 3 million copies. However, Osbourne suffered a serious blow and Rhoads was killed in 1982 when the private plane carrying him crashed in Florida. A half-hearted live album of Sabbath covers, Speak of the Devil, number 21, 1982, was hurriedly released after a subsequent tour with a temporary replacement for Rhoads' tribute, a live Osbourne album featuring the late guitarist, reached number 6 in 1987. Following his first post-Rhoads release, Bark at the Moon, number 24, 1983, and Ultimate Sin, number 6, 1986, Osbourne scored his only hit single, Close My Eyes Forever, a duet with former Runaways guitarist Lita Ford, which reached number 6 in 1988. On his own, he found a winning combination after Zakk Wylde, a former member of the New Jersey metal unit Stonehenge, took the guitar chair. His creative playing powered No Rest for the Wicked, number 13, 1988, No More Tears, number 7, 1991, and the 1993 concert set Live and Loud, which included Osbourne's only solo Grammy winner, I Don't Want to Change the World, and Osmosis, number 4, 1995. Osbourne staged a retirement tour following the latter album, but re-emerged quicker than Frank Sinatra. In 1996, Osbourne's services were declined by the Lollapalooza Festival. Sharon Osbourne hit on the idea of mounting a metal fest centered around Ozzy's participation. Mounted for just 2 days in Arizona and California, Ozfest was a smashing success and became a top-grossing U.S. and U.K. touring event that attracted most of the top names in metal, including latter years of regroup Black Sabbath. Osbourne made a brief return to the Sabbath fold in 1998 after a couple of one-off on-stage reunions for the live set reunion. The 2-disc release, which featured all 4 original members, included 2 new bonus studio recordings. It peaked at number 11 nationally and captured a best metal performance for its concert rendition of Iron Man. In 2001, Osbourne's first studio in 6 years, Down to Earth, shot to number 4. Its personnel included bassist Robert Trujillo, who exited the group to join Metallica, one of the many younger bands taking a page from the Ozzy playbook. Osbourne split his activities during the first half of the aughts between touring and work on the Osbournes. The reality scheme, which collected a 2002 Emmy Award, featured Ozzy, Sharon, and 2 of their 3 children. Daughter Amy declined to participate in the series. The metal equivalent of Ozzy and Harriet, the comedic look at rock and roll domesticity, became MTV's highest rated reality show. Undercover, 2005's rendering of songs by the Beatles, Mountain, Bought the Hoople, and Cream, among others, found no favor with Osbourne fans, climbing no higher than 1934, but the all-original sets Black Rain 2007 and Scream 2010 restored the singer to chart primacy, peaking at number 3 and number 4, respectively. Predictably, plans for a plotted album tour by the 4 original Black Sabbath members did not run smoothly, announced with a flourish at a Whiskey A Go-Go press conference in 2011. The reunion was postponed after Tony Iommi, the only constant in the band's lineup, was diagnosed with lymphoma. Recording sessions were moved to the guitarist's homes in England, but then drummer Ward, disgruntled by financial terms of the contract, backed out. Produced by Rick Rubin, with Brad Wilk of Rage Against the Machine setting in for Ward, 2012's Black Sabbath shot to number 1 simultaneously on the UK and US album charts, a first in the band's 44-year history. Its track, God Is Dead, collected the Best Metal Performance Grammy and was succeeded by 2 years of dates in Europe, America, Japan, Latin America, and the US. An album and tour featuring the same lineup and both titled The End marked the last run for the band in 2016-2017. Osbourne and Black Sabbath called it quits on February 4th, 2017, date in the hometown of Birmingham. Yet it was just one of the several retirements for him, He first retired from touring in 1992, and the band, and they reunited one last time earlier this month at the Back to the Beginning concert. Osbourne issued two popular late career solo albums, Ordinary Man, number 3 in the US in 2020, and Patient number 9, number 2 in 2022. A new reality show starring the Osbourne family, Home to Roost, documenting their return to the UK after 25 years in the US, was announced by the BBC in late 2022. He is survived by his wife and 5 children. He is going to be missed. As long as I have been into heavy metal, starting about 1981, when I first saw the movie Heavy Metal and got the soundtrack, and that that just opened everything for me from all the bands on the soundtrack. Although I did listen to Bullets Cult before that and Sammy Hagar, but that really opened my eyes to Judas Priest, Black Sabbath, uh, Ozzy Osbourne. It just blew out from there. I I didn't care for a lot of his mid-stage albums. You know, my favorite album of Ozzy's is Ultimate Sin. I liked Bark of the Moon. That was a great album as well. His those first set of albums, Blues of Oz, Diary of a Madman, uh, Speak of the Speak of the Devil, Bark at the Moon, uh, Ultimate Sin, Tribute. Those were all great albums, and that was, I think it was sometime after uh, Ultimate Sin I really stopped listening to him until I would hear some of this stuff, but it wasn't until Scream on Ordinary Man, uh, Black Rain, that I started listening to him again a lot. Patient number 9 was a great album. I loved what he did with all the other different artists. Ozzy, I sort of feel like I did when Dio passed away some years back. You have these heroes, and all of a sudden, they're not part of they're not. He was never really in my life, but a lot of his music was the soundtrack of my life, and knowing that there's not going to be any new Ozzy Osbourne music is 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 hard to take. Uh, I know the last couple years weren't easy for him. He made the hard decision to step down. I know he wanted to do one more album. He was talking about that after Patient number 9, and it's unfortunately he didn't get to it. But he in the last several years he had some really good albums, and I'm very happy that he did. I'm happy that he got to play with Sabbath one more time. God bless you, Ozzy. Rest in peace.